What is up, folks? It is me, Mike Vanderpool, aka Heart of a Lions fan, here today to talk to you about our Detroit Lions, my reaction to the game against the Chicago Bears, my look back at this season, and then looking ahead to next year. We're also going to talk about Dan Campbell and my real feelings about Dan Campbell. We'll also do my 5 points of blame for yesterday's victory. We're going to play the blame game, folks, and assign some points of blame. And let's do this. We'll go over to LinkedIn right now. Boom, shalaka. I'm sorry, Facebook right now. Y'all don't want to see me on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn, that's where I keep it professional. Ooh, there we go. There we go. How do I share this out now? How do I share this out? Oh, geez. It's like my first day. Folks, I do not do a very good job with this in the live. You'll notice I fix a lot of stuff in post and in editing here. So there we go. There we go. View my channel. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Come over here. Share this. Copy that. Hop back over to Facebook. I'm live now on YouTube. Let's go. Live on YouTube. Come call me an idiot. Come call me an idiot. Because I know that's what folks love to do. Boom, shalak, clock, boom. All right. Post that up. So here we go. Here we go. 2025 Detroit Lions season has come to a close. And really, last night's game against the Bears was one that it was a weird game for me. And I guess not really when you think about the fact that the game didn't actually matter, right? So the game against the Bears, I was frustrated because we were starting our starters, but then also excited because I am not a big Ben Johnson fan and I would like to beat Ben Johnson. I didn't want our players to get hurt, so I thought putting them out there might be a little silly. But then knowing who our players are, listening to Decker talk, listening to Amon-Ra talk, listening to Goff talk, right? The players wanted to play. And if the players want to play, I think you have to let them play, right? We as a team here, a city, an organization, and a community of fans, Detroit, right? We don't give up. We don't give up. So I might have given up if I was the coach, but knowing my players, like Dan Campbell knows his players, I think I know now, hindsight 2020, quarterback coach me. I'm not the quarterback coach. I'm the couch coach. That's what they like to call me. Couch coach Mike Vanderpool agrees with Dan Campbell's decision last night to play for the win. I am and will always say that Ben Johnson is overrated. Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams are getting a lot of love here lately because of the record, because of everything else. And I've said this before, and this is the last time I'll say it. The offensive line is the difference between the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears. That's it. The offensive line is typically the difference between a good offensive team and a not so good offensive team. Yes, our offensive stats, we performed fairly well on offense. We had more problems on defense. We had problems across the board, injuries, refs. Like Dan Campbell just did his press conference, and Dan Campbell, when they asked him about, well, what changes do you need to make? He alluded to it. He didn't say it directly, but it was really a death by 1,000 cuts this year for the Lions, right? The coordinator situation was one thing. Losing Ragnow was another thing. The injuries to Joseph and Branch, like those two things. The injuries also on the offensive line for players that Brad Holmes has drafted. Whatever was going on with David Montgomery and some of the usage, some of that got rectified last night. Some of it also surfaced again when it mattered most. You can't pick one thing. If you're going to come on here and you're going to tell me, hey, we do this one thing, the Detroit Lions win 12 games instead of 9, I don't think you're right. I don't think you're right. So let's go ahead and talk about Dan Campbell. 2 reasons, right? Number one, I'll share my screen here because I know you guys like it when I share my screen because there's a couple things here that I'm going to want to look at. I made a post last night. Hey, what's up out there? What's up, Justin? Thanks for the like, dude. Thank you. Yes, this is a throwback. Nice. Yeah, nice. Happy birthday, Justin. We did get that Lions victory. So let me share my screen right here. We'll go ahead and share the Facebook. Boom, clock, boom. There we go. There we go. This is me, Heart of a Lions fan. I am live over on Facebook right now. I'm live here up on YouTube. I do have some awesome merch that you can get that I've designed myself. Send me money. Rod Wood doesn't need any more money. He's not going to spend it on players, so send it to me. But there it is, thebonfire.com allgrit.store/getgooddad, or go to allgrit.co and you can get there as well. But I'll drop that link somewhere else. Hey, there's me live right now. How meta is this? Hey, there's me live 5 minutes ago. But this is what I want to talk about. Two things. Well, let me not forget about this Decker one. I post last night, Fire Dan Campbell. And this post got 122 comments. It got 48 reactions. I was called an idiot 6 ways from Sunday. I lost a whole bunch of followers. And folks, here's the deal. It's freaking Facebook. And it's freaking the NFL, which has no real bearing on any of our lives, unless you work for the Lions or you pay for parking, or you're one of the people that owns a parking lot downtown, right? Or a business downtown, right? That's the reality here, man. We did finish with a winning record. I'm happy about that. But like when I posted this post, Fire Dan Campbell, this was in direct reaction to the play calling last night at the end of the game when we were driving the ball for the win, when David Montgomery is averaging 5.2 yards a carry, and even Jahmyr Gibbs is averaging 4.8 yards a carry. We get it down into that pseudo reddish area, and Dan Campbell decides to pass, and it leads to an interception. Dude, Dan Campbell, I want you fired as play caller. I personally love Dan Campbell as a freaking head coach. Dan Campbell stood up today in his press conference and he talked about, man, when I sit like this, it looks like I'm fatter than I really am. Look like Santa Claus here over in the Facebook feed. Glad this is freaking waist down over on YouTube. Dan Campbell in his press conference just now took accountability for the play calling last night. Actually, no, he didn't. Scratch that. Dan Campbell took accountability for himself and the failure of this season. They asked Dan Campbell to give himself, well, they didn't ask him to give a grade, but they said, hey, what's your thoughts on the season? Dan Campbell gave himself an F, because for Dan Campbell, and this is why we love Dan Campbell, for Dan Campbell, this Lions coaching job for him is pass fail. Super Bowl or you failed. And Dan Campbell admitting that, I love you, Dan Campbell, as a coach. This Fire Dan Campbell, I'm not going to take it down because it gets too much action and probably made me 13 cents. And folks, if you don't understand who I am as a Lions fan and that I rant and rave and sometimes get a little silly and overreact to things, I can't help you. You like calling me an idiot, and I'm giving you an opportunity to call me an idiot. So there you go. I'm giving you what you want, social media people. But Dan Campbell taking that accountability in the press conference today, giving himself an F, super important. Dan Campbell talking about how he's going to take some time before he needs to make decisions. Doesn't sound like he needs to make drastic changes anywhere. Again, I think this was death by 1,000 cuts for us this year as Lions fans, which made it even more painful, right? Because it was like 1 week it was the offense turning out, another week it was the defense. That 1 week it was special teams. Like there's just so many things that when you look at it, it wasn't just one problem, which makes it harder, right? Because one problem you can fix, but the offensive line, to Stud Studios comment, yeah, 100%. The offensive line needs to improve. Now, the offensive line did fairly well last night, which gives us some hope because, dear God, those weren't our starters. But with, I think Ratledge will be fine once you've got some better bodies around him. I think center is going to be an issue. Glasgow, I love you to death. I hope you retire, so we have to figure something out at center. Sewell at right or left tackle will be fine. Mahogany, once he gets more time, I think he'll be fine as well. Manu coming back will have some depth. Who knows what's going to happen with Skipper, but I think our offensive line is fixable. Without having to do too much. We have a whole bunch of players who are injured on the offensive line. If we can get a free agent center, that's where we need to make the move. We need to make the move at free agency for center, because you're not going to be able to find a center in the draft to come in and be successful. I think you can draft a center, but it's going to take some time for that person to develop. And right now, the Lions, I think, and I would argue, are still in win first. So Dan Campbell, I love you. We're going to move on from the Fire Dan Campbell. It was a joke. It wasn't a joke. I'm not going to say that because that's the cheap way out. This was me being angry in the moment at Dan Campbell's play calling. And if you think that me shouting and screaming and being fanatical during a game makes me not a fan, then I don't care, because you don't know what the fans is. Fan is short for fanatic, and I'm the most fanatic. Fanatical. All right. Speaking of our offensive line, holy smokes, folks, I hope you watched this. Oh, this is great, right? We hung a banner last night. The Bears We beat the Bears and Ben Johnson twice. I mean, of all the things this season that happened, this happening was for me the best. I do not like Ben Johnson. I will never like Ben Johnson. We'll take a look at the stats here in a second because we did have two 1,000-yard receivers in JMO and Amon-Ra, which is pretty phenomenal. But look, folks, if you want, go watch. If you haven't watched it yet, go watch Taylor Decker. I've never been a huge Taylor Decker fan. Number one, offensive line isn't sexy, right? How many people actually buy offensive lineman jerseys? I know there's a few of them out there, but for the most part, right, the offensive line, they don't get player of the week. They don't get any of these accolades, right? You've never heard an offensive lineman up for MVP. But to hear Taylor Decker speak last night, and they gave him time. This is a long video here. And to hear him speak as a father myself and his decisions and what he went through this year and his thoughts as a father, you know what? Taylor Decker is my favorite Lion, even though he's probably not going to be a Lion for long based on the conversation. For those of you that didn't get it, Decker, with his injuries, had to spend a lot of time rehabbing. That took him away from his family. As someone who spends sometimes a lot of time away from my family as well for all the projects and things that I work on, I can understand that. I can understand not wanting to miss that. I can't understand living in pain 24/7 like it sounds like he was doing. Taylor Decker, no matter what you decide, I love you, and I'm probably going to have to get a Taylor Decker jersey because you have epitomized what it's meant to be a Lion, not only a Lion, but also a good human and a great father and much respect. Please go watch that. If you don't understand Taylor Decker and the severity and the enormity of this decision he has to make, that video right there will illuminate you. What else did I post? Let's see here. So let's talk about the 5 points of blame. And this is blame in a good way, right? So people who are like, Mike, you're always so negative. I'm not always negative. I will be critical when we need to be critical. Let's be positive. Last night's victory, we have to definitely give props to Dan Campbell as head coach. Dan Campbell was able to pull his team together to win a meaningless football game. Although I would argue it wasn't necessarily meaningless. I think it didn't mean anything in the standings and seedings, and when it came to the draft, it didn't mean anything. But it meant something to the players. And I think that's where Dan Campbell has success as a coach. His relationship with his players. If you heard Amon-Ra, if you heard Jared Goff, you heard Decker talk pregame here and the other two after the game, like the players wanted to play this game, and Dan Campbell put them in a position to win, and they won. Dan Campbell is getting a point of blame. I think that you have to give a point of blame to our offensive line for all of the struggles and all of the problems our offensive line has had this season. Last night with Hubbard, who I didn't know, nobody knew necessarily, not many people knew at a right tackle position. I'm not even sure who they had at left tackle. I don't know if Skipper was in there or what was going on there. I know Mahogany was in. Mahogany got injured a little bit, but then he was back out there. Frazier came in for a little bit. Obviously, Glasgow center and Ratledge. Our offensive line did well. We ran the ball at 5 yards a carry. Jared Goff had time to pass. I think there was only 2 sacks. So Dan Campbell gets a point. Offensive line as a whole gets a point. Amon-Ra. Folks, Amon-Ra, and everybody said it, and I'll say it again, Amon-Ra is this team. Amon-Ra is that person who was the 14th receiver, the 16th receiver picked in the draft that is now a top receiver in this league. He has something to prove, just like the city of Detroit, just like this team continues to have something to prove. And everybody is just waiting for us to fall off for a half minute so they can tell us how bad we are. Go over to the NFC Smack Talk chat, and they're talking about, Lions fell off and blah, blah. And it's like, bro, we still had a winning record. Anyway, Amon-Ra epitomizes this team. Amon-Ra gets 1 point for sure. You know, JMO had a really good game. JMO, a couple of the blocks he laid out. Khalif had a good game. And all of that, though, does go back to the offensive line. So maybe because there's 5 players on the offensive line, I should have given all 5 points to the offensive line. But Campbell, offensive line, and Amon-Ra on the offensive side of the ball, I think that works for us. Now, 2 points of blame. We have to give a point to Kelvin Shepherd. Right? We've given Kelvin Shepherd a point of blame when we've lost because of the defense. We only gave up 16 points to the Chicago Bears. Ben Johnson, I don't know if you watched his press conference. I had to watch Ben Johnson's press conference to see how irritated he was. he basically said we didn't score enough points. I'm not happy with our offense because we didn't score enough points. Guess who gets the blame for that? That's our defense. And I think our defense as a whole performed well, and that is going to be Kelvin Shepard. Kelvin Shepard, I think you showed last night that you have the ability to adapt, right? I think we went for more zone coverage versus man. That worked out really well for us. And then I think we got to give the other point of blame, Maddox. That interception by Maddox was super, super, super important. That interception by Maddox was crucial for us. Without that interception, I think that game might be different. If that's a pass interference there, they get the ball at the 1 yard line. If that's a catch right there, that's a touchdown. Even another potential down with their offense was starting to click. Like that interception was massive. So 5 points of blame for our victory. Dan Campbell as head coach, thank you. Dan Campbell's a play caller. I still got issues with you. Offensive line did phenomenal, both run and pass protection. Amon-Ra, dear God, I'd kiss you on the mouth if you were right here. Kelvin Shepard, thank you. And Maddox for your interception. Much appreciated, folks. So now let's actually take a look at 2025, the season that wasn't. I'll go ahead here and share my screen once again, and we'll just take a look at the overall stats here. I think that's important for us, right, to really get a look here. I'm not going to go game by game. Dear God, nobody wants to spend much time with me. But if we look here and look at our offense, Jared Goff, 4,500 yards. And I know Joe, Tippy, and some other folks out there are not huge Jared Goff fans. Jared Goff is polarizing, but so is Matthew Stafford. So is every freaking quarterback the Lions have ever had, right? I get it, right? Somebody said today, what could the Lions get Lamar? What are you going to do with Lamar Jackson? He's at home right now too. Like a mobile quarterback doesn't solve things for you. Caleb Williams it didn't win last night, and he's a mobile quarterback. And that dude, I'm sorry, I'm going to disagree with some folks. Hi, Matt Derry and some others. Caleb Williams is the real deal. Caleb Williams, I think, is the real deal. That dude's elusiveness, his ability to make amazing throws is pretty impressive. If he just continues to get better and the Bears can keep their offensive line intact, the Bears are going to be will not be a bottom feeder for long. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs breaking 1,000 yards, David Montgomery having 700 yards this season. I'm going to say our running game did extremely well. The problem with our running game was it was kind of opportunistic. There were times where it went away when we needed it most. Maybe that was some of the play calling. Maybe some of that was the line. Just like Dan Campbell said, I think it was a lot of everything kind of coming together at one point. The receiving yards, and this is where we have to tip our cap to freaking Jared Goff. I mean, yeah, he was targeting Amon-Ra last night, but Amon-Ra was getting open. But his distribution of the ball this year is pretty freaking phenomenal. I mean, Amon-Ra, 1,400 yards, beautiful thing. Jameson Williams, 1,100 yards, beautiful thing. Jahmyr Gibbs having over 600 yards. I know Khalif caught some passes, did well this year. Tesla, for being a rookie and maybe having some issues running routes, did really good this year. Our defense, dude, Jack Campbell is the best player on our defense. I love Hutch. I love Hutch, but Jack Campbell is the heart and soul of our defense. Aiden Hutchinson, first half Hutch, showed up yesterday, got his sack in the first half, and then he always is going to have an impact on the game. But really, when we look at overall Hutch is going to be better next year because he'll have a full year of playing, training, whatever you want to call it, conditioning, right, to be ready to play. He didn't have that this year. Remember that. Hutch looked gassed a lot this year. Next year should be better with a full year of not worrying about rehabbing a knee or rehabbing his broken leg, of actually just getting and staying in game shape, being in game shape. Interceptions, we did have more than a few issues on our defensive side of the ball. Yes, we came up with some interceptions, but Joseph only having 3, obviously only played half of the season. I really, really, really hope Joseph can come back. If Joseph can't come back, I don't know what's going to happen here, right? But when we look at comparing ourselves to who we played, first downs, pretty much the same. Third down conversions, pretty much the same. And that's really where I think our offense did struggle this year. Our offense on third down did not do as well as it probably could. I'm going to argue that was because we run the ball or run the right plays sometimes on first and second down. Couch coach, I have no freaking clue. Couch offensive coordinator, couch play caller, whatever you want to call me, I got no clue. But that's where my head is right now. Rushing yards, here's the thing. We were pretty much even, slightly above most of our opposition here this year. Total passing yards, we had more. Passing completion, and an average, we had more. Sacks, we didn't have as many sacks as our opponents. But look at this. Touchdowns, we had 10 more touchdowns. Like, we were right there. And I think if we go back and look at our record, and I'm not going to do that, but like most of the games we lost were one-score games. And those one-score games, like if we would have had, the more consistent offensive line, if we would have had Kirby, Joseph, and/or Branch, like this season, only a few things were the differentiator, and I think that bodes well for next year. I do not think that we're not in rebuild mode, folks. We're going to be in retool mode for next year. Let's go ahead and look at some of the player statistics here. This is kind of wild. It felt like David Montgomery threw more than 2 passes. Now, I don't want to beat this too much, but Dan Campbell having David Montgomery throw a pass last night to Jared Goff, or to try to throw a pass to Jared Goff, was the epitome of Dan Campbell's stupid play calling. We saw last night an epitome of the season, right? We started off well. We kind of started to turn out in the second half. Dan Campbell made some horrible play clock decisions. Dan Campbell made some horrible play call decisions. And we squeaked by with a victory. Thank you, Mr. Jake Bates. I would kick you on the mouth. I didn't even give Jake Bates a point of blame. But Jake Bates, after I'm done kissing Amon-Ra on the mouth, I'm going to kiss you on the mouth. How's that for a deal? Jared Goff, though, and again, I know that people have an issue with Jared Goff, but this is a pretty freaking phenomenal line for Jared Goff. He's not going to be in the MVP talk this year. Hasn't been in the MVP talk because they weren't winning enough. He had his games where he turned it out, but guess what? Matthew Stafford's MVP, and last week he kind of turned it out too. Jared Goff is just going to need to have a stellar season with basically no errors, and the Lions to have another 15-2 record in order for him to be in the conversation, just because he doesn't have the name credibility at this point. Everybody's kind of got Jared Goff labeled here. I think he's probably a little bit higher than where people actually do label him, but that's where it is. Now, this is where things are going to get really weird for me, and this is going to be my insight into the offense. If we look, Gibbs and Montgomery, awesome, but this kills me. Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra only had a total of 9 rushing attempts between them. We go back and watch. I can't remember the last time I saw an end around or a reverse or any type of movement that had the ball in the hands of our fastest player, Jameson Williams, outside of passing it. There were a couple times we tried and it didn't work, and that's fine. But when things work and you don't try, sometimes you do try again. But it felt like there was a lot of that we gave up on some stuff. But I would really, really love to see in a more creative offense where you're getting the ball in the hands of Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown maybe a little bit faster, right? Instead of those little like pitch outs, screen passes or passes to the flats where you got 3 people blocking, I would rather get the ball to them with momentum when they're running and have those 3 blockers out there than waiting for them to catch a pass and make a move. You're not fooling anybody with that play anymore. Ben Johnson runs that play to death. We run that play to death. We'll take the receiver, dump them out to the flats. They got 3 blockers, and then they got to try to make a move, sometimes to get 10, 20 yards, the way the play is being called. So this was really eye-opening to me when I looked at it. Like, we did not get the ball in the hands of our playmakers as much as possible within the run game. Receiving yards, Amon-Ra, beautiful, right? 11 touchdowns. We love that. Jameson had, why is that? Oh, because Jameer had more receptions. That's crazy. Yards per reception, Jameson did well, 7 touchdowns. Laporta, right, until he got hurt. David Montgomery, this is the other thing, right? David Montgomery did phenomenal for us, basically equal to yards per reception from Jahmyr Gibbs, yet Jahmyr Gibbs got more targets here. I really do think that the underutilization of David Montgomery in specific instances did cost us some games. You all know how I feel about that. Where did Tesla show up in here? So 16 receptions for 6 touchdowns. That's insane. Over a third of his catches were for touchdowns. I think that if we can get Tesla to kind of develop and run crisper routes, he's gonna be a monster for us. He can definitely be a monster for us. Uh, this is crazy. Ferkser. Look at Tom Kennedy. Tom Kennedy here. Holy smokes! Look at Tom Kennedy. He looks like he should be in high school still, right? He looks like back there. Now let's go take a look at the defensive side of the ball. Uh, Jack Campbell led us in tackles. Alex Anzalone. I love Alex Anzalone to death. I don't know that he's going to be here next year. Brian Branch, right? Aiden Hutchinson. How does Aiden Hutchinson not have more tackles than Brian Branch? Maybe that's because of the position that they play. But here's the other place. Interceptions, a little wild, right? Spread out all over. Total interceptions we had for the year, though, was a decent amount. It did get spread out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's not bad. Special teams, I think Jake Bates did phenomenal. Jack Fox punted phenomenal. Punt returns. We were a little weak here, I felt. There were a couple times Khalif got us some good game position. Kick return, Tom Kennedy, I think, did some nice work for us there as well. Jacob Sailors, right? I think everybody did okay this year. Nobody really hammered it home, kicked it out of the park for us. But statistically, for the most part, I think we have a pretty solid team. Are there going to be pieces we need to replace? Of course, I think we're going to lose Anzalone. We're going to lose some pieces on the offensive line. Defensively, Tyreek Williams, he had a better game last night. I think he's going to be fine as he matures into his second year. So foundationally, again, I don't think we need to talk about rebuild. I think we're talking about a retooling. Foundationally, our offensive players, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, who will be better next year, I promise. We have a solid foundation, folks. And I know we're going to be okay. Brad Holmes doesn't need to hit home runs. He just needs to hit a solid single at center, maybe solid double at center. In the draft, we don't need any more wide receivers. Dear Lord, we don't need any more running backs. Keep David Montgomery. You're going to, because you got him under contract and he does exactly what you need him to do. And if you got through this year without being a problem, you can play him however you want and he's not going to be a problem, right? Maybe a little upset, maybe make some cryptic social media posts to give the media something to talk about. But if we're winning, that goes away. So Brad Holmes for 2026 doesn't need to do anything crazy, right? Just be cool. And don't swing for project players, right? We don't need project players. We need impact players, people who can make a difference. I don't know what's going to happen with Terrion Arnold. We don't know what's going to happen with Rakestraw. We don't know what's going to happen with Kirby. You're probably going to have to go CB again as well. All right, so we talked about my real feelings on Dan Campbell. I love Dan Campbell to death. He's an awesome human being. I love him also as my head coach, just not a fan of him as our play caller. Dan Campbell gave himself an F for this year. That pass-fail mentality, I absolutely love it. Dan Campbell could have given himself a C or a D-, and I think he would have been okay with that. But for him, it's Super Bowl or nothing. So Dan Campbell, if you're watching this, and if you ever see me say fire Dan Campbell or post fire Dan Campbell, that's overreactionary to the moment of me as an insane Lions fan. I love you, Dan Campbell. I will also kiss you on the mouth. Other people I would kiss on the mouth, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who got a point of blame for the victory, along with Dan Campbell, the offensive line, Kelvin Shepard, and then Maddox, Avonte Maddox. I would also like to I should have squeaked in a point of blame for our good friend Jake Bates. But you know what? Jake Bates got a game ball, the only game ball from Dan Campbell last night. Jake Bates, again, get in line, kiss you on the mouth. Talked about the victory last night. I'll tell you, watching the game last night, I didn't get high. When we were up, I wouldn't let myself get high. My blood pressure that game was probably more even than it's been throughout the entire season. But there is nothing better than seeing Ben Johnson lose. I will go down swinging, just like Aaron Rodgers is the most overrated quarterback of all time. Notice I didn't say he wasn't good, but Aaron Rodgers is the most overrated quarterback of all time, and Ben Johnson is the most overrated head coach of all time. He took over a garbage team with some decent pieces, got 3 new offensive linemen, 2 of which are going to the Pro Bowl, and has a first pick quarterback in Caleb Williams, who's highly mobile and can make up for some BSery, and did well. Ben Johnson, I always not like you. Maybe I don't know you, so maybe you're an okay human, but as a football coach, you're overrated and will always be overrated in my book. And I will always like to see you lose, especially if it's the Lions who are helping you lose. Looked at this year, looked at some of our play calling or some of our stats here. We've got a great team. Let's back this up. We don't have a great team. We have a really, really, really good team, and that's almost always what people have. The great teams come around once every so often. The great teams are typically helped out by a schedule, by some healthy officiating. Hi, Kansas City, and then a lot of luck, right? A lot of luck when it comes to injuries and everything else. So we have a really, really, really good team that needs some tweaking and some retooling. So I am personally excited for 2026. I am done podcasting though about all of this stuff. I am moving on until before the draft. I'm going to try to get Kevin Lawson to come on and talk draft with us. Kevin Lawson, if he still does it, I don't know. He's super busy. Go check out the Mancino's Pizza in Saline and say hi to Kevin Lawson. I'm going to try to get him on the podcast right around draft time. We'll do a draft show. But if you want that daily Lions stuff, you're going to Locked On Lions because he does a better job than everybody else that's out there, right? The Lions beat writers, they do a pretty good job as well with their coverage. You got the Lions Syndicate out there who's basically me, but has a better studio. Hi, Lions Syndicate. I know you're watching. And then all the other freaking slappies out there that have podcasts. And to each and every one of you who watch and enjoy what I do, thank you. To each and every one of you out there who hate what I do, who want to call me an idiot and call me other things, I love you too. I'm just a freaking Lions fan, man. And I got mental problems, just like you. So be good to each other. We may not be winners in the division, but we did beat the division winner twice. And now we get to sit back and our team and our players get to have this fire built inside them as they watch other teams in the playoff, as they get a little bit of time to rest and relax and heal up, which I think is more important necessarily than having a slim chance at doing something in the playoffs. They're going to come back with some fire. They're going to come back with some energy. We're going to get the decision from Decker. Go watch the YouTube video of Decker. It's awesome. But folks, here it is. I am signing off. I will still be probably posting on my Facebook channel because that's just what I'm going to do during the playoffs. And if there's any real Lions news, I may comment and do something. But for the most part, folks, go watch Matt Derry, Locked On Lions. Go watch Lions Syndicate. He does a really good job. And just at the end of the day, folks, it's freaking football. It doesn't impact our lives in any way, shape, or form, right? Just be good to each other, Lions fans, because we're all we got. Peace, y'all. Ooh, here, let me do the picture for the. Here's the picture for the thumbnail. Peace, everybody. Be good to each other.